woman ain't been double-crossed. You ever been under, all the way under, like I had, oh, like I had. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Perfectly Good Podcast, the only podcast on the internet where we count down every John Hyatt song from A to Z. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson. Joining me is my Hyatt sister, Sylvan.
Hi, Jesse. Another journey into the catalog, still in the A's and having so much fun.
Absolutely. And we are asking the listeners tonight, have they been lost? Have they ever been double-crossed?
Don't trust anyone if they say no.
Exactly, yes. We're talking all the way under. So what's the facts?
The facts are this was on John's Dirty Jeans and Mudslide hymn album. It is track number 4, often a track number that gets a little bit lost. So interesting that those themes hit on that. And this album featured the Goners, as many do. We've got Kenny Blevins, Doug Lancio, Patrick O'Hearn, and it is a New West release, his 5th for that record label. And I was reminding myself that this album actually came with a nice little DVD bonus where John is interviewed on each of the songs, and he talks about the recording and the process for songwriting. And he was talking about how this song in particular kind of had an old-time gospel vibe. And Kevin Shirley, who is the producer on this and brought a lot to this record, talked about just doing it without drums. So Kenny Blevins, the drummer of the Goners, just played a little bit with his hands to give it that sound. And John described it as hearing just a clickety clack on the acoustic. And there's some upright bass, and Doug Lancio plays national steel and some mandolin on this song. So there's a whole lot of musical stuff, as well as a whole lot of imagery and fun stuff going on in the lyrics.
Yeah, I it's kind of interesting because the title of the album says hymn, has that in there, and then talking about a gospel feel. I could see that a little bit. I like this a lot. So my quick thoughts are, this is a good song. I like this one. It is, as we get into it, I think we'll talk some more stories, but I like the idea that if your heart hasn't been broken, if you say you haven't done foolish stuff, then I don't believe you, because all of us do, right? All of us have stumbled, and to try to say you don't means I don't know if I can believe anything you're saying. So am I being overly simplistic, Sylvan?
So, I'll just yes and you a bit, Jesse, and point out that he's also talking about breaking hearts as well as having your heart broken in this song,
Yes.
which I think is an important part of growing up. We all remember that first crush where we kept our heart just taken out of our chest. And then, that feels like growing up. But then there's that point where you're like, oh, whoops, I actually hurt someone else, and I didn't set out to do it, but I did. And, gosh, I'm really sorry for what I've done. So I think it's really interesting that John hits both angles, because a lot of songs talk about, having your heart broken. Everyone loves a blues song where you've been dumped and you're gonna just cry yourself a little river. But fessing up to being the hurtee is a little bit more rare in a song, and that's something I think it's a little bit unique in this one that really drew me into it.
Yeah, there is, as always with me, a Bruce connection. So take a drink, guys. The lyrics, well, I just tore the heart out of many a girl just to see why she loved me for. Have you been sorry, really sorry for what you've done, for what you have done? In Bruce's film he did for Western Stars, which was the album he did very right before the pandemic, that was kind of a Southern California feel. In fact, he actually covered Rhinestone Cowboy when they recorded it live. He says in the film that was they recorded to promote the album that there was a time in his life where he hurt the people he loved very harshly in defense because he knew they were going to end up hurting him. So he aggressively, if you loved me, I was going to hurt you because I know I couldn't trust you, that because I was not worthy of love.
It's that wounded animal in all
Yes.
of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lashing out.
And so when I read that verse and I heard John sing it, I thought of that. The idea of I tore your heart out almost as a test. Do you really love me? Will you love me enough? If I treat you like this, will you still love me? And that is not healthy. It is certainly not a basis for a successful and, pardon the redundancy, healthy relationship. But I think all of us have done that in one way or another. I know that it is sometimes it's very easy to hurt the ones you love because they have forgiveness for you and you feel like it's a safe place and you're lashing out to someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that going on, and then there's a whole bunch of kind of nature imagery, and songwriters love a river, so he goes on to kind of place himself under the water, literally swimming upstream. It's dark and it's cold, looking for a house made of solid gold, and can't come up, my lungs about to burst, feeling weighed down by an ill-gotten purse. Lots of kind of a little bit, maybe even biblical imagery of, coins of silver or all that kind of stuff. So a great blues song, I would say.
I agree. And the idea that have you gotten this relationship by perhaps unfair means? There is not a lot. I am not a big fan of Dr. Phil, but every once in a while, there are things he says that I think are really true. And one of the statements is, don't do things when you're dating that you aren't happy to do to continue to do once you're married. If you're dating and you go, yes, I will miss the football game so I can go to your mother's house for dinner, you are setting the precedent that when you're married, you're going to miss the football game and and go to her mother's house. That's a simple thing, but the idea is, and so perhaps this character has gotten this relationship in ill-gotten ways. Has he painted a picture that's not true? And he also, I think there's, like he said, have you ever been really broken down to size, right down to size? So he is talking to us, are you a flawed individual? And do you understand what it means to be flawed?
Right.
Yeah.
And this whole song, this whole refrain is, have you, he is seeking a like-minded individual. He is trying to find solace in this place, which is what it's all about. It's why we listen to this kind of music. It's why songwriters write this kind of music. Is that especially for blues, I think you picture that club where everyone is nodding their head yes, and yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
you sing it.
Hmm.
You tell us.
Yeah. And to give the second Springsteen reference, um, there is Drive All Night is a song that he does, and they make fun of it because it's I would drive all night to buy you a new pair of shoes. And people joke, has Bruce never heard of Zappos? Like, Amazon, can't you just but
Isn't that song older than those things,
yes,
though?
they
I
are.
don't know.
And
Maybe I'm wrong.
yes, they are. And so, but he talks about in the introduction, the band will be starting the instrumental, and he'll say, have you ever messed up? Have you ever really, really screwed up? And the audience, he goes, no, 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 you're lying. More of you should be nodding your head to this. And like, when you've really messed up and you need to apologize, that's what this song is about. And so I like this, the whole idea of, right, that I don't trust a man that's never been lost. I don't trust a woman that ain't been double crossed. Have you been under? Have you been under someone's thumb? Have you been the underdog? And if you are, then we are brethren. If we're not, I don't know if you and I can connect. I don't know if
Right.
you and I can be that togetherness, whether it's
Yeah.
friendship or romance.
And it really speaks to the idea that we're not supposed to answer yes.
Right.
We're always supposed to have our guards up. We're supposed to present our whole healed, healthy selves to the world of, oh, no, I haven't been torn asunder. What are you talking about? I've had my knocks, but I, just brush it off and move on. This is to say, no, I really want to know. I want
Yes.
to know just how bad it's gone, all your good gone bad, every
Yeah.
last bit peeled away.
There
And
was I do not know why this stuck with me, Sylvan, but I was in high school and I was attending my local Baptist church where I was a member, and the pastor, uh, Brother Skinner, Reverend Skinner, and he preached once about the after Jesus comes back, and there's this scene where he asked Peter, do you love me? And he says, yes, I love you. Well, then feed my sheaves. And then he says, do you love me? Then feed my sheaves. And the premise, he said, is that the first time Jesus asked him, he was like, oh yeah, of course I love you. And then he's like, okay, do you love me? Oh yeah, 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 I love you. And then the third one is, do you love me? Well, yeah, but I like this just as much, or I do that, and so I think this is that thing too, where you're saying, have you been broken? Can I trust you? Oh yeah, you can trust me. Oh, well, can I trust you? No, 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 you can trust me. And then you can say, can I count on you? Well, probably, but I will tell you, when the road gets rocky, I tend to hit the bail. I tend to leave. So maybe we should think about this. And as I said, when I was listening to this today, a lot of it came through my mind thinking about this, in this is a deeper song to me than just and it's a fun song. It's got a nice repetition to it. It has a really
clickety
good,
clack.
yeah, clickety clack. Yeah, it's like, um eh, you know and I just think it's a deep song, and there's a lot of meaning to it to me.
Yeah. So I was thinking as I was putting it on the playlist today and preparing that it's one that passes the I have someone that has never heard of John Hyatt before. Would I reach for this song and show them as an example of uh his both his songwriting and his performance?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be the first one that comes to
No.
mind, but as I was listening to it, it's like, no, this checks all the boxes for
Yeah.
what I love about John. as a songwriter, as a performer, you know, you really can't get a better band. And Kevin Shirley really did such a great job shining the diamond to sparkle its fullest.
Hmm.
I am going to remind everyone of Michael Elliott's biography of John Hyatt. There's a great passage about how this album came to be, because it's a really great story that Kevin Shirley was a fan of John's and had been producing bands like Metallica and things like that that wouldn't quite translate in most people's mind to, oh, I'm going to work with John Hyatt now.
Hmm.
So uh, Kevin Shirley reached out to John and said, you know, I've been listening to what you're doing, and I think I can take you somewhere that you're trying to get to and you haven't quite gotten yet. And John was so impressed by that you know, he said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And because this was released fairly recently, 2011, it was in an age in social media that I was getting really excited with the pre-press of this, and I actually reached out to Kevin Shirley and thanked him for all of this. And he had such a sweet thing to say, that he made a comment that, you know, I've kind of thought of myself as a kindred spirit to John Hyatt, if I could even dare say that for someone so special as John. And I was
Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
nice.
yes. Yeah.
That's nice. Um, Among fandom, how do you any thoughts on this song? Any feelings? What with your pulse on the fandom base?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, it is funny that, as I said, I would put it on as an introduction to John's songs, but I can't say that, you know, sitting in the concert arena, anyone said, oh, I really hope he plays this.
right.
And I was trying to remember if it did make the rotation. If it did, around 2011, I think it fell off fairly fast.
Hmm.
I don't recall it coming up. And again, it's that kind of no man's land right in the middle of track 4.
Yeah.
Um, so it does, I think, get overlooked quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I can't say that in the fandom anyone really, you know, talked about um, this pulling them through hard times or having a special connection to, the way that, of course, we're going to hear about with other songs.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's just because it is kind of a feel good version of that. I've
Yes.
been in a dark place and then I've gotten over it.
And I do love the kind of almost the mixed message of a very upbeat, bubbly tune, and as you said,
Mhm.
it's clickety click, very energetic, with a talking more about the struggles and what we're doing. It is, yeah, I think that mix mash works and helps to sell the song.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I also am not particularly aware of any covers, so I don't know if I have missed them, but I think it's a song waiting for you know,
Hmm.
blues woman or blues man to take it and go someplace. Or
Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool to hear like a gospel choir do it? Like
Yes, it would be. Yeah.
you know, a soloist out front of, um, you know, have you ever been under, all the way under, and have them reply with,
Yeah.
it'll make you wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Good. Any other thoughts?
I guess not.
Okay.
No. I
Okay.
mean, this one's a kind of straight ahead one.
Yep, it is. It is. Though I do think it had, um, I think you brought up some really good lyrics that, John's having fun with. He talks about being underwater, looking for a house of, solid gold. And then I can't come up, my lungs about to burst, feeling weighted down by an ill-gotten purse. I think it's certainly well done lyrics and clear.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I look great. All right. I think it's your turn to go first. How are you ranking it?
Oh, it's so hard. I
Yes.
have to remind everybody that like a 1-star John Hyatt song is not an insult. It is just,
Yes.
there's so many better. So I think I'm gonna have to go 3 on this.
Okay.
As I said, I would gladly put it on as an introduction to someone, but only if I remembered it. And I don't know as I'd always remember this one if it hadn't been that I listened to this album recently. And my goodness, Dirty Jeans and Mudslide Hymns is a masterpiece.
Well, and I think that's that's worth putting in the bank to do an episode of that. Is if you were going to build a 10-song playlist that you wanted to give to a casual fan. I did this with Springsteen and my guest, hope he's not listening. He basically said, play him the greatest hits. Right. And I was like, no, I mean, that's like, it'd be easy to do, bring the family, to do, like your dad did and have a little faith in me and this, but it would be a little more fun to come up with 10 songs they probably don't know and to hear them. That would be a kind of interesting
Yeah, so your
exercise.
premise is actually to stretch someone's John Hyatt knowledge, not necessarily to introduce them to John Hyatt.
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to disagree with your premise there that
yeah,
a first introduction to John, I really think that you have to get a pulse read of what kind of music the person is into and then let them listen to a full album.
Yeah.
Because John is an album musician. He puts together things that are great. And, I bought each of his best of albums, but when I listened to them, I was just like, one song plays and I want to hear the next song from its original release, not what they put on next.
You want that journey. Interesting. Yeah. I like it. I like that idea a lot. All right. I'm right with you. I think this is a 3. It is certainly a solid. I agree with you. If you're looking for someone that says, well, I've picked up some of these, John Hyatt best of, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper. This is one I'd include. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, speaking of deeper, everyone do go ahead and watch that DVD that was included with this disc and read all about this album's creation in Mike Elliott's book, because both great stories.
All right. We want to hear from you. We have an email, perfectlygoodpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. We are on Twitter @perfectlygoodpd. And Sylvan, how about yourself?
I am Sylvan Green Eyes on Twitter and Sylvan Groth on Facebook. While both still exist, you can reach me either place.
Yeah. Yes, I am giving the same disclaimer. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, Jesse Jackson on Facebook, and please check us out. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We are still looking for people to go to iTunes to rate and review us, and we are hoping to grow our audience. So you will hear us say this a lot. Find one John Hyatt fan that isn't listening and say, hey, you should check out Sylvan and Jesse's discussion and help us grow. We would greatly appreciate it.
And is now a good time to ask people to come join us on our first Bring the Family song coming up?
I think that is a great idea. Why don't you go ahead and share?
So December 7th will be our recording date for Alone in the Dark, which is from Bring the Family. And I know there's a lot of people anxious to talk about that album. That song, there's so much to talk about that, it might be an extended episode, but all the better to have some different voices and different points of view. If you happen to like that song or you have a story about what it meant to you, go ahead, send us a voicemail or just let us know if you want to come and join us on Zoom.
That sounds perfect. I appreciate it. Yeah, reach out to us and we'll give you the details. And I'd love for half a dozen people to join us and we have a round table. That'd be fun.
Yes, it would.
Good. All right. Listeners, stay safe, be kind, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a little faith.
And have a little faith. Goodbye.
Baby, we can come on home, put the cow horns back